Hello out there to everybody. Happy Saturday evening as the day's kind of winding down. So if you saw my Facebook post, mine was a bit of a doozy. Kind of caught me off guard this morning, but as always, I try to be as adaptable as possible. It's helped me through a lot of things. That's one thing the military definitely taught me is adaptability, adapt and overcome. So, which I guess is a good segue, the military and all. I noticed today, I seen a lot of shares starting to pop up that the United States Marine Corps is banning Confederate flag imagery. It doesn't matter anymore. Flags, whether it's, a mug in the office, whatever. The United States Marine Corps is flat out saying, like, you cannot have Confederate flags anymore. And it got me to thinking. And I know this is probably going to be controversial to some. And I'll get into that too. I'll try not to take up too much time. I'll try to kind of stay on point. But I'm going to travel back in time again because it's necessary for the story to properly work. I'm probably going to not really read the comments too much either, just because I want to stay on track, because I can get squirreled real easy. Y'all have seen that. Let me take a sip real quick before we travel back in time. All right. I grew up in a place called Franklin, Tennessee, okay? Franklin, Tennessee was not too unlike this Warrensburg area I'm living in now. Not super rural, but kind of leaning rural, if you will. Definitely more. You could drive for a few minutes and find more country type scenery. So I grew up in a smaller town, and the high school I went to was called the Rebels. So we had the Rebel mascot. It wasn't uncommon for people to fly Confederate flags. And so growing up in that town, it wasn't uncommon to see a Confederate flag, and for me, especially growing up in such a big Civil War town, for those who are not too familiar, the Battle of Franklin was one of the bloodiest battles in the entire Civil War. So I grew up, my parents' house still is basically on areas that probably could have at least been fought on or had troops, kind of passed through over time. So, growing up, I never really thought about necessarily that the flag was racist, had ties to racism or anything like that, really. It was kind of associated with the area. I don't know. It's hard to explain now. Now, knowing things I know, hearing things, being a little bit more traveled. You know what I mean? So, always, we were the rebels. And one thing that I learned over time, too, because I'm still a rebel, but you don't need a Confederate flag or Confederate imagery necessarily to have rebellion. There's tons of rebellions out there that don't require that imagery. Now, I'm not offering by any measure that it needs to just be erased from history, because it's important to learn from, but I don't know if that kind of imagery is needed in today's world. I know, like I said, it's going to get a little controversial, probably going to piss some people off here and there, but when they talk about statues coming down, things like that, I know a lot of people talk about erasing history, but do we need that kind of stuff? With so many other things that we'll tear down so quickly, do we want to keep basically imagery reminders of that kind of past? It seems so silly to me. And I know, too, people be like, well, when you come home to Franklin, don't you go down to the square and go to that statue of the Confederate soldier that we have lovingly called Chip for all these years? Absolutely I do. But again, that's a connection that I've had, and it's part of my hometown. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not defending that. Let me finish, okay? If that statue were to leave tomorrow, I would probably be like, oh man, because it has been that visual background to so many memories. We would cruise around it. There are parades around it the whole night. But if that statue were to disappear tomorrow because it genuinely hurts people, my life wouldn't really change in any real way, shape, or form. I think about so many other things that in my travels I'll never see again. Places I'll never go again for a second. And my life has continued to go on. And a lot of times, sometimes I feel like it's gotten better in things. Again, I'm not saying we necessarily erase all history. We can't just pretend like things didn't ever happen. But we don't need to be flying flags and things like that in the year 2020 from a civil war that was all this time ago that really had nothing real positive from it, you know, between the slavery of the time to us killing each other and so on and so forth. A wasp just flew in here, and I hope it doesn't sting me, but I'm trying to keep on point right now because I know this is important. It just flew back out. We don't really need that stuff. So I think with the United States Marine Corps putting such a hard foot down and saying like, no, we don't need that. Like, going back again now too, we're going to travel through time again. We're going to get back to let's go to 1997. I get to my first permanent duty station after being in the Air Force. Actually, let me go back a little bit before that. It would have been late 96 at this point. There was some racist stuff that was going on in the barracks that I was in at Shepherd Air Force Base. And I remember vividly that there quickly we all got called out onto the carpet, basically. Not even the carpet, onto the patio out in the hot. And we were all just locked up at attention, and we didn't know what was about to happen. Like, no one really knew what the hell was going on. And I can't remember all the details even really, but someone had left like a real racist note on someone's door. And the guy just happened to be black. His name was Grandy Richardson. Rest in peace, Grandy. But when that was discovered, like, everybody was called out onto the carpet, and we were all standing out there. And like I said, none of us really knew what was going on. And this master sergeant, who was one of our training instructors there, he came out, or our training leaders, excuse me, he came out, and we started getting this ass chewing, unlike any ass chewing that I've ever had in my life. And at this point, I don't know, like, why this is even happening. Like, what is happening? And then finally, he kind of tells us, you know, about this racist message. And he basically says, if you look at this airman standing next to me and see anything but an airman, you're doing it wrong, you know? And that was an eye-opener. That was an eye-opener, you know? And not so much that I was shocked. It was just kind of shocked that you had to tell people that in the year. That was 1996. But you have to tell people that it doesn't matter that this guy that's serving next to me, it doesn't matter if he's black. Like, holy shit, we shouldn't have to explain this to people. You know what I mean? Fast forward now again, just a little bit, and this will tie back into the flag. It's all going somewhere, I promise you. And why did I've kind of changed my stance over the years? Because I know a lot of people are like, holy shit, you had a Confederate flag. Yes, I know, I'm telling that story. So, 1997, I get to my first permanent duty station, Laughlin Air Force Base on the Mexico border. Del Rio, Texas is the town right across the border of Ciudad Acuña in the Coahuila province. It was kind of a different experience for me because now I find myself as a minority for the first time in my life. You know, the culture there is very much Hispanic. Everything is Hispanic. Like, you don't see a whole lot of white folks, and you really don't see a whole lot of black folks down there. Most of the black folks you do come across come from the base. They work on the base because they've got transferred in, just like I got transferred in. So down there was just a big culture shock almost for me in general. Just being around a whole new culture, it just everything was different. But my very first supervisor was a master sergeant, and I won't tell everybody's names, but we'll call him Willie because his name was Willie. He just happened to be a black gentleman. And then another master sergeant that kind of took me under his wing, Clarence is his first name, also happened to be a black gentleman from Atlanta. Willie was from North Carolina. I was trying to think, is it North Carolina or South Carolina? One of the Carolina, I believe it was North Carolina. Clarence was from Atlanta, and one day they just happened to go be doing room inspections, and they saw that I had a Confederate flag up on the wall. And after, they hadn't known me a ton, but I guess I've been there close to a year or so at this point. And they both just kind of pulled me aside, and they were like, we got to ask. Like, what's that Confederate flag about that you got in your room, you know? And like, because they were just, from based on the way I talked, the way I talked to them, music, everything, nothing gave them, I guess, good old boy vibes, you know? Here I am, this young, very pale cat from Nashville with a very pronounced accent, and I got a Confederate flag in my room. Now, mind you, yeah, you don't want to jump to conclusion with people, because obviously I'm not a good old boy, but, you know, if you don't really know me that well, and the only visual that you get of me at this point, and they knew me a little bit, so they kind of knew better, and that's why they pulled me aside. And this is leadership, baby. This is leadership in action and mentorship. say they don't know me. They go into my room and all they see on the wall is a big old Confederate flag. What does that tell them? It probably tells them nothing positive, really. You know what I mean? Because I've also lived in other places since then where I was like, oh shit, no, I can see. Like, I understand. My eyes are open now. You know, I kind of had those awakenings, and living in other places. You know, you kind of, because you can change too, guys. That's the beauty part. You can get educated. You can learn things. You can have conversation with people, and your opinions can change, and you can have different views than you used to have. Like, you don't have to be stuck in a zone. You know, you can evolve as a person. I think it's that's what we should do, right? At the end of the day. But anyway, Willie and Clarence pulled me aside and they're like, what is this about? You know, so now I'm talking to a black man near the end of his military career from North Carolina, a black man near the end of his career from Atlanta, and they're just kind of explaining to me their viewpoint. And how, if they didn't know me, if they would have walked in the room and saw, like, that's how they're going to judge me now. And is that right? No, it's not. It's still prejudging, prejudice, absolutely. But now you can kind of see it from a different angle, you know? And so they're listening to me. And here's the thing, too. I need to explain this a little bit, maybe. As a young airman, okay, here I am, 18 years old, 19 years old at this time, terrified of a master sergeant. A master sergeant, someone has been in, like I said, they're towards the end of their time. They served their 20-ish. They're at that point now. They're somewhere around 20 years in. They've seen, heard, and done some shit. So to have two master sergeants, senior NCOs in the Air Force, who happen to be black, to kind of take me under their wing and just explain life to, like, does it get much better than that, honestly, to have those different perspectives? And I've talked about First Sergeant Walker H. Quarterman, that was my ROTC mentor in high school, and we had some of these conversations. So I was already kind of starting to slowly evolve, but to have these different perspectives then, and to explain how it made them feel, explain the imagery that they saw, that they associated with it, I was like, whoa. Like, no one's ever broke it down for me like that. Because I guess, too, growing up in Franklin and Franklin High, and being a rebel, that was our mascot, having that imagery, you would see black people. I went to school with people from the time I was in kindergarten. I sat next to the same people I graduated with. You know what I mean? Like, we came up together. And I guess maybe since we were all rebels and no one seemed to really trip at the time on the Confederate flag, that I never really gave it a thought. It was just normal to me, I guess. And kind of, and that's why I've said before, it's important to get out of the town you grew up in. And again, if you stay there, that's fine. I ain't bashing nobody, but I think it's so important to go to other areas and hear some perspectives, because here I am on the Mexico border serving my nation, and I've got two other people that are telling me their perspectives through their lifetimes of experiences in a way that they're not being mad at me. No one's yelling at me. We're having a dialogue. We're conversing. I'm telling my side and explaining to them, and they're kind of understanding too, like, I never thought about it like that. Like, I guess there are some people that kind of come from a background where it may be kind of like people don't really trip on it as much. Now, does that make it right either? Not necessarily, no. You know, I'm not defending anything. I'm just trying to have a dialogue. I let people make their own decisions at the end of the day. But for me, I don't need you won't find anything Confederate flag in my house unless, you may see, I take that back. If you flip through some yearbooks of Franklin High School, you'll probably see a Confederate flag or two, because again, it was normalized. It was a normal thing. I don't think as much now, you know. Like I said, I've changed as a person. I've had conversations. I've grown as an individual. Some people may still disagree. Some people will shout, you know, heritage isn't hate, those kind of things. But again, I can respect where I came from and know where I came from to be where I'm at now, without still utilizing that same imagery, you know, without doing it in a teaching manner. Like, I still think it's important to have imagery, but to show, like, well, this is what it is. This is what it symbolizes, you know, because I don't think a lot of us can think of too many positive things that anyone can associate with a Confederate flag, or a rebel flag, as some people call it. Am I wrong? I'm just saying, just putting it out there. Kind of like Fox News. Anyway, kind of like Fox News, I report, you decide. I just want you to think for a minute. Like I said, I'm not saying I'm right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just been kind of my evolution over almost 42 years of thought. And just seeing that today, I was like, that's kind of a big step. To have the Marine Corps do it. hopefully others follow suit. Because when I served, it didn't matter where you're from, who you're from. I served with people who weren't even U.S. citizens. I've covered that before. And you want to stand next to me? I don't even care if you're doing it to have a better shot of becoming a citizen. Like, that's some ballsy shit when you go serve a country that isn't even the one you were born in. Like, that's some real shit. And I ain't got nothing but respect for that. So yeah, I don't care where you're from. If we're going towards that same positive goal, and we're trying to make some positive change in the world, you're my brother or sister regardless. And I honestly mean that. I'm not just talking and pandering by any measure. I think anybody that's talked to me for more than 5 minutes can gather that. So I'm gonna wrap this up. I still haven't eaten much today, just like yesterday. I'm bad about that. Like, someone had to tell me to go take a break today, for they were going to yell at me to go take a break. I get in the zone, just kind of get to talking and stuff. And I've had a lot spinning in my mind these past couple days, you know. So until next time, holla at your boy Panda. Think about it. I'm not saying anybody's right, wrong. I'm just saying think about it. Do a little research. Do we really need those kind of things in the year 2020 going forward, especially with the way the world is changing, and hopefully in a more positive way? Like I said, we don't know what tomorrow will bring. Just going to do the best I can today. That's all we can do. So until next time, holla at your boy Panda. I think NXT TakeOver's on, or it's about to start. I'm going to go watch me some wrestling, drink me another Bang energy drink, and I got some M&Ms too. That's going to be my little treat today. I definitely need some protein too. So I got to go figure that part out. Love you all. We'll see you soon. Until next time, bye.